Thoughts and prayers to Miami Heat fans on that Game 5 loss, blowout loss in the second half to the Boston Celtics. But please give a rousing welcome to Mr. Stephen A. Smith for joining the Bad Signal podcast. Immediate reaction after the game. It wasn't as we planned earlier in the day. But, sir, do you still bring that energy that you do on First Take at 12:15 at night?
Depends on what I'm doing. But I would tell you that yeah, I'm tired, but it was a disappointing game. Look, I would tell you could crucify the Miami Heat, but the reality of the situation is they're depleted. I mean, everybody's injured. Jimmy Butler clearly is injured. He shot 4 of 18 in Game 5. The backcourt, Max Strus and Kyle Lowry, combined to shoot 0 for 15 for the game. Oladipo shot 1 for 7 from the game. What are you supposed to do when your guards are bricklaying like that? There's little to nothing you can do, particularly against an elite defense like the Boston Celtics. But like I said, Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry are hurt. Tyler Hero was out with the hamstring injury. He's missed the second straight game. Oladipo, you expected more from him, but it happens. But Strus, he's got a lot of explaining to do. This is a guy, he's been in the NBA for 3 years. He's your starting off guard. And this guy has gone 0 for 16 in the last 2 games. There is simply no explanation, no excuse for that whatsoever. You cannot be that bad and have your team competing for a championship. You've got to be better. And he is not. He has not been. And that's a hard thing. Offers are hard to live down.
Yeah, I would say so. Do you think this was the first game that Miami typically, they had open looks left and right? I mean, they were playing drop coverage on Bam. They were pulling the guards, hoping that their guards would get over the top. Miami had wide open looks. This is the first game that Miami had a better shot quality than Boston. They just couldn't knock it down.
They couldn't knock it down. That's why I gave more blame to Miami's offense than more credit to Boston's defense. Boston's defense is elite. They don't need to be given any credit on most nights. But I saw countless shots that the Miami Heat had open. Boston knew and could just sense. They just didn't have it. And so the second half started and they ran them out of the building. And so that's really what this comes down to. Miami didn't have it. Boston knew it. And it got to a point where they were literally daring them to shoot the jump shot. They were daring them to shoot because they knew they just didn't have anything going for them.
Yeah, obviously the Heat in grave danger. This is the first time that they've been down in this postseason. What is it going to take for them? We remember 10 years ago, the same situation happened, but you had a man named LeBron James that was at the helm of this Miami Heat offense going up for a game 6. He dropped 45. I don't even think that the Heat right now have starters that could combine for 45 points. Is this completely over? I mean, I know I saw your post. You said
yes. It is. It is without question, because LeBron was in trouble, but LeBron had himself. He had D Wade. He had Bosh. He had a team.
Yeah.
And you knew that they could explode offensively. With the Miami Heat, let's understand something here. We're not discrediting or disrespecting the Miami Heat in any way. We're acknowledging you're depleted. You first of all, even when healthy, you're limited offensively, because Jimmy Butler is your number one option, and there's considerable names you could throw out for number 2, but there's no definitive number 2. And you're going up against a Boston team with a star in Jason Tatum and another one in Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, your rated defensive player of the year. You know what he can bring to the team as an energizer bunny. And then you got big bodies like Robert Williams and Al Horford, especially Robert Williams. Bam Adebayo hasn't shown up in any game that Robert Williams has played against him.
Yeah.
The best game that Bam Adebayo had was game 3 when Robert Williams couldn't play, and he took advantage and scored 31 points. And so when you look at it from that perspective, it is clear that the Miami Heat are depleted and drastically limited offensively. And this is not a situation where they're down 3-2 just because Boston's the better team. I still have Boston winning this series in 7 games if everybody was healthy. But when you see how depleted they are, I can't imagine them losing the way that they did in game 5 and then going back to Boston for a game 6, a closeout game with that crowd, and Miami able to overcome their own internal strife, meaning their injuries, to force a game 7. I just can't see it.
Yeah. What is it? I guess you got to switch gears and to some extent on the other side of the ball, you have to give credit where credit is due. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, it seems like you can't get both going in the same game, but Jaylen Brown was hitting these untouchable shots, contested shots. It was like the Heat defense was playing lockdown defense for 23 seconds, and then he was hitting a fadeaway at the bucket. Who has been more impressive to you in this series as a superstar on the ball?
Well, I think Tatum is better, but I think that Jaylen Brown has exploded at times. I'm very discouraged by the amount of time he turns the ball over, because I think that you got to know and see people stripping you, people looking to draw offensive fouls, clearly gifted at getting their bodies in front of you like Miami is. You got to know when to pull back. And sometimes I question whether or not Jaylen truly knows that. Having said all of that, he is a star. Jason Tatum is something special. But to me, the most valuable player for the Boston Celtics is Marcus Smart, because he just infuses something in them. It doesn't matter how many points he scores. It doesn't even manage how many minutes he plays. The cultural identity of the Boston Celtics rests on his shoulders. And when Marcus Smart, even though they lost that game, he hurts his ankle. You think his ankle is broke. The next thing you know, he comes back out a few minutes later. Is what he does. He's just an energizer bunny, and he infuses a level of toughness in them that makes them capable of withstanding any kind of adversity that is thrown in their direction. Boston doesn't lose back-to-back games, and they go on the road. They'll go anywhere and beat you. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, you just are forced to give credit where credit is due and recognize how special these boys are and what they bring to the table. But I'm a Marcus Smart fan.
I thought it was very funny. He got his 4th foul, and he's looking at Ime Udoka's like, you got to come out. And it's like he's looking at him, but he's really not staring at him. He's like, I got this. You got to trust your superstars when they say, listen, I recognize I got 4 fouls, but I'm staying in the game. I think
it wasn't important. It wasn't important because they ran away from it with him on the bench, because they understand what Miami's limitations are. They know it now. That's the beauty of a playoff series. You're not just playing basketball. You're studying the opponent. It's not just for one night and then you go to another city and another city and another city over the stretch of an 82-game grueling schedule. Come a best of 7 playoff series, you get to lock in and focus on that one team. That means you notice every tendency imaginable. And when it comes to the Miami Heat, they look like a team that's beaten, but not just because they're the inferior team. They don't believe they're inferior. They believe if they were healthy, you know what, they could beat these guys. Fair enough. But when you just look in the mirror and you're like, I don't have it. I'm beat up. I'm hurt. I can't run. I can't jump. I can't do this. I can't do that. And you're just ready for it to be over. And I think that's where the Miami Heat are right now.
I know that there's a saying in football, and I've heard a number of my friends in the NFL say that when you have soft tissue issues, that's on you. That's poor hydration. That's lack of stretching, taking care of your body. Is it a situation like that? Because I feel like
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. They play. What I would tell you is they play for Pat Riley. They play for Pat Riley, and they play for Eric Spoelstra, who's a Pat Riley clone. Okay, and we get that. They probably get days off, but you're going to work hard in practice. And you're going to be built for a playoff run to have that level of toughness. They have legitimate bona fide injuries. Kyle Lowry is a warrior. There's no way on earth he's getting out on the court and shooting 0 for 6 in a game 5 of a playoff series.
But no assists.
Yeah, I know that, but
0.
That's not because he can't move.
Yeah.
He can't move. That's not who Kyle Lowry is. He is a champion. He knows what it takes. And for years prior to him winning a championship, he was a miniature dynamo that was played in the land of trees and still found some way to be productive. I've known Kyle Lowry since he was in high school in Philadelphia. That's how far back Kyle Lowry and I go. He is a warrior. That's not who I saw tonight. I saw a guy that was out there strictly because Tyler Hero couldn't be out there. And he said, I got to try to give you something. And he had nothing to give. That's what I saw in Tyler Hero. That's what I saw in Jimmy Butler. Struss, I just saw a guy that was in over his head. The moment was too big. He's just not that guy. He's just not that guy to be in the starting lineup. He's not that guy. And Gabe Vincent was shooting 50% from the field, and then Spoelstra put him on the bench, and the next thing you know, he can't find a shot. He hit some shots tonight, but the previous 2 games, he shot like a combined 3 for 14, so he wasn't helped along. And Bam Adebayo doesn't seem to play well when Robert Williams is on the floor. So there you have it.
Yeah. What is it about Robert Williams that makes everything so the Heat offense just seems so out of sync? And I know that we've talked about this on our radio broadcast. Ruth Riley Hunter has said, I mean, you can even tell that PJ Tucker, when he's going up to the rim, he's hesitant when he sees Robert Williams. There's not a player in the NBA. I mean, like, are we talking Joel Embiid level here? What is it?
Stop.
I know. Well, I mean, why?
They'd almost take your podcast away for making a statement like that. Don't ever make that statement.
No, I'm not. I didn't mean to say that. No, I'm not comparing him to that level. But why is it so difficult?
Because he's a shot blocker. He's a shot blocker and a rim protector. And if you are a Miami Heat team that only has a couple of guys that can specialize with 3-point shots, because Tyler Hero specifically is out, and that's all you have left, then ultimately you're going to try to attack the basket. And he is a formidable foe in the interior defensively. His primary responsibility is to rim protect, rebound, block, and block shots and make sure you change shots. That's what he's there for. So anytime he's on the floor, it gives your defense an opportunity to take additional chances on the perimeters. You're going for more steals. You're up in guys' faces. You're not looking to lay off them so you can run back down low and help in the rebound department. You're contesting everything because you have all the confidence in this world that this guy has the interior covered from a defensive and rebounding standpoint. That is what Robert Williams brings to the table for you. He's very athletic, and he challenges shots, and he's quick of foot, so he can actually assist in changing and switching and getting out on 3-point shooters to change and block shots there as well, as he did tonight. He's not to be underestimated.
What is your favorite Pat Riley story? I know Cedric Maxwell, who was a riot, 1984 NBA Finals MVP, and he shows me that Seiko watch. That's what they gave. It literally looks like a Timex watch in a box. That's what they used to give back in the day.
Right.
He told a great Pat Riley story the other day, saying that he was playing the Lakers, and there were some guys at the end of the bench that were chirping at him. And he looked at Pat Riley, just kept chirping him all game. He's like, yo, put those in the game right now. And then he immediately put him in the game because he was like, tell them to stop chirping at me. He scores 8 points and he throws him back on the bench. He's like, exactly what I'm talking about.
My story with Pat Riley is on a much more serious and sentimental level.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
It's 2009. It's May of 2009. ESPN had informed me about 2 weeks earlier that my contract would not be renewed.
Oh, wow.
And that at the end of the NBA season, I would no longer have a job. I had no prospects. A lot of my life depended on ESPN at that particular moment in time. And I wondered what I was going to do with my future. But in the midst of all of that, the Miami Heat are playing the Atlanta Hawks. And at the time, it's called Phillips Arena. And my last assignment was to cover that game. I believe it was game 5. I'm trying to remember. It was game 5 or 6. It was one of the games, but it was in Atlanta. And I've been friends with Tim Donovan and Rob Wilson for years. We go back decades. Rob Wilson, you know these guys in media relations.
Yeah.
They're 2 of the best dudes in the world. I love them like brothers. And I've known Rob Wilson since my days writing for the Philadelphia Inquirer. And the first access I ever received to an NBA game was given to me by Tim Donovan, who was the guy running media relations for the New York Knicks. And I was a high school reporter, and Tim
Wow.
Donovan gave me access because he knew that I had aspirations to be an NBA writer. That is the year 1993. That's how far Tim Donovan and I go back. And I say all of that to say I went to the back in that Atlanta playoff game in 2009 to say goodbye to the both of them. I let them know what happened, and I told them I just came to say goodbye. And I ran into Pat Riley, and I walked up to Pat Riley to say goodbye to him, to let him know that I wouldn't be back. And initially, he just looked at me. He didn't extend his hand because he couldn't understand it. And then when I explained to him, look, I just want to say goodbye and I want to thank you for everything, because Pat Riley had always been good to me, he refused to shake my hand. And in the moment, it was like a big slap in the face. And I thought that, damn, I didn't know what to think because he wouldn't shake my hand. And I just extended my hand and I held it out there for a brief second. He said, get your damn hand away from me. So what are you doing? He said, you act like this is the end. You act like, this is the end for you. This ain't the end for you. He said, you'll get back, you'll recover, and you'll come back and you'll kick ass even more. He said, when you get back here, then you come and shake my hand. Until then, get the hell away from me and go back and handle your business and resurrect whatever you think you lost, because you will be back.
Wow.
And I've never forgotten that, because the only way that I can explain it is that there are moments in our lives where there's an incredible level of vulnerability that you feel. You're just weak. This is the time when somebody can get you. Like you're just down. You just don't have it. Those moments arrive for all of us. They're very rare, but it happens. And that was one of the rare moments that I was feeling that way until I had that conversation. Before that happened, I was thinking I lost everything. I was thinking about the embarrassment, the humiliation, the disappointment, and the fear, because I didn't know what my future held. And when Pat Riley spoke to me that way, at that moment, I knew I would be back. I knew I would come back, because I had said to myself, if he believes that about me, who the hell am I not to believe that about myself? So Pat Riley, because of that incident, I don't even know if he remembers it, has always held a very near and dear place to me since that moment. And I'll never forget it as long as I live.
That's incredible. And that vulnerable moment, that vulnerability where it's your personal charisma, everything that you stand for hangs in the balance of your job.
Yeah.
It is a representation of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was let go at NFL Network, it completely broke me. Completely.
Yeah.
I felt that same. I could not go 6 months without crying at the thought of not having the job that I had before. I didn't know where I was. I was completely vulnerable and broken. And that story that you tell, that you just told, I think it can speak to so many people that are listening to this, because this is exactly the type of motivation that you need to get back on the horse. Nothing's taken away from you. Just because a job title or a person or a job entity decides what they want to do for you, it does not determine where you need to go. Reinventing yourself in this industry is so important.
That's true. But in our industry, it wasn't so much the job. It was that I didn't have a plan.
Yeah, I didn't have same.
And so it wasn't about the job or the job that was lost. It was about me not preparing myself well enough to make sure I had a landing spot. And when that hits you and you're slapped with the reality that not only does someone not want you, you don't know if anyone wants you. And you didn't prepare yourself for that. And everyone will know because we are in a public forum in terms of the work that we do, what we do occupationally. It's a struggle to imagine the vitriol, the humiliation, the unmitigated joy that some people would have at such a demise of myself, you, or anybody else, just because of the world we live in. And so the vulnerability hits then in that moment because of all of those things. And then for somebody who is a champion, who is an author, who's won championships as both a coach and an executive, who played in this league that I love so much, that helped make my career, meaning the NBA, to see this man speak to me that way, to have such an unfiltered and an unwavering belief in me, it was amazing. I'm telling you right now, if you went to Pat Riley and you asked him the story, he wouldn't remember a sentence. Because it's nothing to him to do that, because it was naturally who he is. It's been who he's been naturally and whatever. But I'm writing my book. My memoir is coming out next year at some point with Simon and Schuster, and I will tell you that's a part of it, because all I can tell you is that, I'm not somebody that just lifts myself up. I'm somebody that stands on the shoulders of a few people who lifted me up. And never in my wildest dreams did I ever expect one of those people to be Pat Riley.
That's
But
beautiful.
it was him. And I'll never, ever forget it for the rest of my life.
That's incredible. And I guess on that same note, what did you do after that? Tell me just about the upbringing of yourself as a journalist. I feel like a lot of people, I love hearing people's stories. I'm fascinated by those stories of how you got up in the business. You don't have to walk back too many decades. I won't
No.
age you on that, but I how did you come back to ESPN? I mean, kind of walk me through.
Well,
Um,
I started my career as a high school writer with the New York Daily News. I went from there to the Philadelphia Inquirer after 14 months. And I was at the Philadelphia Inquirer for 17 years. I got promoted about 8 or 9 times, whatever the number was. And I became the 21st African American in American history to be a general sports columnist. That gave us the license to editorialize and give our opinions long before social media came along.
yeah.
But as it pertains to, where did I go from there? I had to take a long, hard look at myself and the things that I did wrong to put myself in the position that I did. And one of the things that I had no choice but to reflect upon was how ill-informed and oblivious I was to my own business. How I thought people knowing my name and screaming my name in the streets made me popular, and how that's somehow transformed to my monetary value, when in fact that could not have been further from the truth. And so, and then when I was let go, and the hours and a couple of days that I had spent lamenting what had been done to me, um, then you reflect on what Pat Riley said, and you reflect on what my mama said in terms of looking at myself, and you reflect on various things, and then you realize the greatest detriment and impediment to your own success is having a finger of blame to point to other than yourself. It gets you nowhere. It gets you nowhere to point the finger at other people when you don't look at you. Because those people are going to be who they are. And part of my responsibility as an employee, part of my responsibility as a potential entrepreneur, part of my responsibility as a professional is to know my business That doesn't mean just knowing my job. It means knowing the minefields, even if those minefields consist of actual people
Mhm.
who set, who set the explosives in place to disrupt and implode everything that you're after. And for me, what I learned was that I dropped my guard. And somehow, some way, you trusted people you shouldn't have trusted. You had a closed mind when you should have had an open mind. And you should have been, while you should have been dogged in your belief and your pursuit of the things that you wanted to achieve, it doesn't mean that you close your eyes and you close your mind to
Mhm.
the obstacles that lie in wait, whether they are things or people. And so for me, I recognized what I did wrong. And even though it didn't feel that way at the time, it turns out that ESPN letting me go was the greatest thing that ever happened, not just to my career, but to my life, because I learned not to personalize business.
Mhm.
And I learned to master my own business. And by mastering my business, that meant knowing what I was worth, knowing why I was worth what I thought I was worth, and having the facts and the receipts to back it up. And once I did that, it provided me a level of internal freedom that I never knew existed. And I've never been the same since. I'm on my game and I don't let up and I keep marching forward and I don't get caught up in what others want for me or don't want for me or what I'm being denied or how I'm being pigeonholed or whatever. I march forward knowing that no matter what their aspirations are for me, it doesn't come anywhere near to my aspirations for myself.
Yeah.
Nor does the accountability somebody will attach to me doesn't compare to what I attach to myself.
Yeah.
I am my ultimate king. I am the one who will crown me, and I am the one who will dictate when I fall and how hard I fall. And I'm going to be the one who dictates whether or not I decide to get up or not, which I always will until I die.
How do you enrich your mind? A lot of journalists, they might read podcasts or read books and articles and go outside and paint. They
Mhm.
have very different ways. But as a journalist in this business, if you want longevity in this business, you have to read, to write, to learn new things, to learn things outside of sports. It's not
Well,
like you have to have this. What do you do personally
I don't think
to
about
learn?
longevity. I don't think about longevity in this business. I just think about being the best at what I do.
So what do
And
you do? Do you read books?
however long I choose to stay in this business, I choose to stay.
Yeah.
I'm very big on current events, so I don't read books as much as I read newspapers.
Mhm.
I peek at the Los Angeles Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Daily News, the New York Post, Politico, Drudge Report. Um, I read all of that every day.
Wow.
Not every page or anything like that, but I'm up on current events. Um, I listen to my colleagues when I can on sports talk radio, but I also listen to Urban View Radio with the Black Eagle, Joe Madison. I listen to my sister, Karen Hunter, who's like a sister to me and taught me how to write when I first entered this business as a high school writer for the New York Daily News. I love her like a sister. She's very dear to me. But I also watch and listen to Hannity when I can. I listen to Mark Levin. I know both of them. I got them on speed dial. We text and email back and forth with all of them.
Yeah.
Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, Mark Lamont Hill. The list goes on. I like both sides. I like I like to hear the conservative and the progressive tilt to
Mm.
things.
Yeah.
I watch Fox News. I watch CNN. I watch Meet the Press on Sunday mornings. I go to George Stephanopoulos this week with George Stephanopoulos um, because I like to hear about politics. I like to hear about policy. I like to pay attention to current events, and I like to be up on what's happening today. And so those are just a few of the things that I do. Socially speaking, I love nothing relaxes me more than a good movie. Nothing relaxes me more than going to the movie theater and just chilling. I don't like parties. I like privacy. If
Mm-hmm.
it's me and my girl, whatever, we go out, go to get something to eat, go to the movies, something like that. That's what I do. I don't like parties. I don't like crowds. I never have been that guy. Doesn't mean
Yeah.
I don't go there. Doesn't mean that those things don't happen. But I always, always, always make sure that I have my private time, and I love being at my house chilling, and my friends, my family. I don't need additional people. I get them. You always meet people that you know and
Yeah.
grow to love and stuff like that. But my inner circle consists of people that I've known for decades. I know who they are. I know how they think. I know I can trust them to be them, and
Yeah.
I'm good with it. So that's really my life, and I'm very comfortable with it.
That's fantastic. You and Mad Dog Chris Russo, I'm sure that you guys go back a couple of decades. Is he
We
possibly the
actually
worst?
don't. We
Well, you
actually don't.
don't. Oh, it
No, we
seems
don't.
like two kindred souls that have just come together. Is he the
But
worst historian of all time on First Take? You guys are
no,
hysterical.
he's
He
hilarious.
might be one of the worst
No, he's
historians of
hilarious. He's
all
a
time.
he actually knows his stuff. But the thing that's funny about him is that you can know so much sometimes that you forget whether it's names or a particular fact or whatever, because sometimes that happens to me. Like, I know the NBA like the back of my hand. I gotta read NFL, Major League Baseball, stuff like that. But when it comes to the NBA and boxing, my recall is tremendous. And so what happens is sometimes I get caught up. I want to say one thing, but I'm thinking about another and all of that other stuff. But when I think about Mad Dog Russo, um, I got to know him really because I started working on Mad Dog Radio when they asked me to come be a host there. And it was his channel, obviously. And so he was always good to me. He was always nice to me. He was always a straight shooter. And I love that about him. And I'm a guy that respects my elders, and I respect pioneers. When you talk about sports talk radio, it
Yeah.
starts with Mike and the Mad Dog. You
Yeah.
can bring up any show you want to bring up. When you talk about sports talk radio, there is no one that matters before Mike and the Mad Dog. And so for me, I think about what he's done for this industry. And I think about the fact that the guys in the 60s with a level of passion that'll rival somebody in their 20s. And I appreciate it. And so I know how crazy he can be with some of his opinions. And I had been telling ESPN for years, look, man, this dude can help us. He's an asset. And they were like, and then finally when, things happened to First Take, they were like, okay, bring him on. And I
Yeah.
said, they saw us on the first time together. They were like, we didn't know. We love it. And I said, you should bring him on every week. You should bring him on every week. And so he brings a different dynamic. We don't think too much alike. We don't agree on everything. And it's perfect because that's what's made for television. But I've gotten to know him. I love the guy personally. I'm very proud to have him on First Take. And I hope to be working with him for years to come because I got a strong, strong level of affection for him. He's a good man.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to be working with him.
I worked with him at Sirius XM NFL Radio back in the
Yep.
days that we roamed the halls. My first ever podcast. We're on podcast number 3 now. We had Meeting in the City. That was in New York. We had Fox and Fallon in LA, and now we have the Bad Signal podcast. Stephen A. You were my first guest on my first ever podcast. It's on some SoundCloud somewhere. I love it, and I just I miss those days of 2013. I got a couple more questions. We might go rapid fire on this. But speaking about Mad Dog Radio and the elements of sports talk radio, debate is about strategy. What do you seek out? What makes your ears pop when you are have an opposing host? JJ Reddick comes and steps to the fire pit to debate you, and you kind of sit back and what do you first think about, and what do you jump on in a debate strategy? What are you listening from your opposing orator?
What I love is that no matter how much they try to deny it, they always come on a set against me with preconceived notions.
Yeah.
Folks have no idea how exceptional of a listener I am.
Yeah.
They hear my loud voice. They see my demonstrative or bombastic tendencies. And they don't pay attention to the fact that I've been a journalist for 28 years. You can't do what I've done in my career if you don't listen
Mm-hmm.
and you don't smell a scent of something. When you're a beat writer, when you're a columnist, you have to look for the details that are below the surface, etch it out and bring it out for public consumption. And I'm an absolute pro at that. I can sniff it a mile away. And so when you come on the air against me, most people are anticipating that A, they know what I know, if not more, and that B, they're going to articulate it and they're going to show that they have superior knowledge. Well, first of all, that ain't gonna work. And secondly, and more importantly, it's irrelevant because all I have to know is how I feel and why. And the second you say something that enables me to articulate that point of view, and it's different from yours, I already have you. You got no shot because you anticipated that you were going to get into an argument about knowledge, when in fact, my argument is about perspective. And I'm the kind of person that I'm like, whether you want to call it a defense attorney or a prosecutor, whatever my job description is, it comes down to this. My objective is to get you to see my side more than you see the other side. It's not about showing who's right or who's wrong. It's about you stating this is where I stand and I ain't budging. What you gonna do about it? And usually there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. They come trying to prove they're right. I come not giving a damn whether you think I'm right or not. This is how I feel. That's the difference.
There is such a difference between Stephen A. and baby Stephen A.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? That Snapchat filter took over. There's something so funny about it. You really embraced it. So you were having baby Stephen A. on your ESPN Plus
baby,
show?
you know what baby Stephen A. is truly? Let me tell you what baby Stephen A. truly is.
Please.
Is truly me as a kid dealing with my 4 older sisters.
I love that because I got 2
that's
older
the
brothers.
kind of attitude I have, except he's turned his attention to me because I'm a grown man dealing with him. But that's really who I was dealing with my 4 older sisters who were always beating me up or disciplining me or telling on me.
Yeah.
So that attitude, that veneer of disgust over everything is me as a kid dealing with my 4 older sisters. So every time I go into baby Stephen A mode with the filter, I'm literally acting out how I was growing up with my 4 older sisters.
This makes so much sense. And I knew that you were the youngest of 4 sisters. I'm the youngest of 2 older brothers. So it's the baby of the family.
I'm the baby.
Just
I have
developed
6.
that.
I'm the baby. I'm the youngest of 6. My brother died in a car accident in 1992.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But I'm the youngest of 6.
Yeah, wow. I'm so sorry to hear that. Well, on a lighter note, you start with the diaphragm at a very young age. The youngest just wants to be heard, and the youngest is ferocious, and the youngest will fight for their opinion to be heard. So me and you, likewise on that situation.
Except I have more attitude than you. You have a smile. I didn't have a smile. I had this perpetual frown because I was always but it's not really a frown. It's like a cringe because I was always waiting for the slap upside my head from one of my sisters, who would still do it, by the way, even though I'm their little brother in my 50s, they would still slap me upside my head right now. That's what they do.
Listen, I know all about carpeted basements. My brother would practice his karate on me, scissor kick. I know it's listen, I got the beat down.
Yeah.
Couple more questions. I had to come on here and ask you about our dear friend Craig Sager. Because the last time that we crossed paths here in Miami, and listen, we're going to be crossing our fingers for one more Stephen A. trip. I want to come back here.
You cancel that, but go ahead.
What impact did Craig Sager have on the NFL? What impact did Craig Sager have on the NBA in terms of reporting, and what is missed most by him? Because I miss my friend Craig very dearly.
He was great personality.
Yeah.
Very affable individual. He did his job always did his job. Of course, his outfits stand out because he wore stuff most of us would never think of wearing. And he was a character, no doubt about it. But he was a friendly person, didn't have a malicious bone in his body, was a gentleman to everybody, and just loved doing his job and loved going to work every day. And, you sat back and looked at him and you marveled at the fact that no matter what time of day it was, no matter where he was, no matter what the travel entailed or anything like that, you always knew that he was there to have a good time and to show you a good time. And he did the best that he could in that regard. And he was very well respected. And obviously it's unfortunate that he's gone. He's left us far too soon. And you miss him all the time. But, he was ravaged by a disease that's taken a lot of us out of here, including my mother. And, you think about it from that perspective, it just reminds you that no matter how far we go, no matter how far we climb, no matter what we achieve in this world and what have you, there are always battles to be fought. And no matter how tired you may get, you got to fight on, because people like him fought to the end, no matter what. And if he could do it, the rest of us can do it as well. And that's the kind of message that he would want us all to receive.
Amen. I miss my dear Craig, and I appreciate all the time that you've given us. I can hear that voice getting raspier and raspier. Later in the night, I will see you, Stephen A., in Boston.
Yeah.
I'm leaving on my flight. I will see you at Game 6.
Yeah.
Don't know if we'll have the
You won't have a Game 7. Ain't bothered.
Come on. You know what though? You better believe that there might be a Game 7, or else you want to sit back on that set and talk Laker talk.
Yeah,
I know that's
what
I'm
you want to
do.
Talk Boston and Golden State, number one, because Golden State's gonna close out this series too. But I think that the important thing to remember is that Miami's depleted. It's no disrespect to them whatsoever. They're just too injured. Too injured.
Do they need to make any moves in the offseason?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
Think so? What do you think?
You got to get somebody to help Jimmy Butler.
Yep. I mean, outside of that, Bradley Beal, Donovan Mitchell.
You'd have to give up something to get him.
Tyler Hero. That's the only thing they got.
Would you give up one of those guys for Tyler Hero?
No.
That's the point.
No. Right? Stephen, thank you for your
Take
time.
Care,
appreciate you.
I'm going to sleep.